Alright, well, Lesson 3 was the third lesson, but this actually is the first lesson in the book. Lesson 1 focuses on pronunciation. And once again, you're going to need to get the book if you want to follow along and figure stuff out. If not, if you speak Samoan, I'd be more than happy for you to answer any of the questions or concerns that it seems that I bring up during the video, or if it seems like I'm just pronouncing one thing wrong and correctly over and over again. Please feel free to offer your help. This lesson, that actually on online you can find an MP3 version of the book, and it has this whole chapter. It's all pronounced, it's all recorded, so it might be really helpful just to listen to it instead of listening to me. The other chapters, there's bits and pieces that the exercises will be done, but in on the MP3 you can listen to this whole chapter. This focuses on pronunciation, and I start with the alphabet. So same vowels essentially, but they're pronounced a bit different. And it's funny because if people that speak fob, fresh off the boat, like people that have really heavy Samoan accents, most of the time it's because English is their second language and they're more used to pronouncing the vowels like this, or at least that's what I've found out. The biggest difference is the vowels. So it's the same letters, A, E, I, O, and U, but the pronunciation is a bit different for the first three. So an A is A. I'll just say them all out. A, E, O, U. So it's the same vowels, different sounds a little bit. So the biggest one I think is the A, because, well, no. It's either the E or the I. But the A is the one that always comes to my mind because of the word Samoa. So if most, like, any Caucasian or European speaking person, when they see the word Samoa, it will instantly pronounce Samoa. Are you from Samoa? And that's the biggest difference with the A, is it's an ah sound, so Samoa instead of Samoa. So instead of apple, it's apple. So a little bit different there, and it talks a little later on. It talks about long and short vowel sounds with the macron above, that line that's above some of the letters in Samoan. And it's the same principle, sort of, that the vowels can make a little bit different sound than English. The E and the I are also kind of different. The E, A, E makes an A sound, like the letter A, and I makes an E sound, like the letter E. So that can be a little bit tricky, like when I was just first starting to read. That was probably one of the biggest difficulties. So A, E, O, U. And those are the vowels. Once again, it talks about how there's a long and short sound, but like their explanation is a whole lot better than anything I can do, so just listen to the MP3. It does give this practice here, which I think is pretty helpful because it kind of stresses the importance of the difference between a vowel by itself and a vowel with the line above it and the macron. So here's an example with A. Tala means story, but tala means dollar. Tele means mini, but tele means big. Fili is enemy, fili is flee, as in a bug. Moli is orange, moli is light, susu is milk, and susu is wet. So there is quite a bit, there can be a big swing depending on how that macron's used. So it's something that you need to pay attention to. It explains it really well here. But it also mentions how in like Samoan itself. They're generally like a native Samoan writer won't put macrons and things. It's just kind of determined by context, so that could be a little tricky for a new learner. The consonants, um, fa, nya, lo, mo, no, nu, pi, sa, ti, vi, and o for the glottal stop. So all the consonants pretty much the same. We'll talk about G in a bit. There's also he, ka, and ro, and HKR. So the letters are pretty much the same. The sounds are pretty much the same. The only difference is G. And a funny note about H, K, and R, it talks about how they are added later. It's something that I found by looking through vocabulary, like throughout the book, is that oftentimes the words that have H, K, or R in them, you can tell that they're not Samoan words. It's like it sounds so much like an English word, just with a little bit different lettering. And so you can pick out those words pretty easy. But let's talk about G real quick. G, like, for a non-native Samoan speaker, the letter G can be really difficult, I believe, because I remember growing up, for some reason it was just really tricky, and it was one of the reasons that I got like discouraged learning to speak Samoan, because I just couldn't figure out how to say G. And it's basically an N and a G sound together, like nya, nya. They use the example sing, sing. I don't know. Yeah. So the examples, they say to practice the words nanga, nyongo, and longo. Like, there's some that are a lot easier than others. Uh, the words G and N, they talk about a little later with they call it colloquial pronunciation, but they're sort of interchangeable. So like Tina and Kinga, that's the easiest. Like Kinga, Tina and Kinga are the same words, but we'll talk about that. I talk about that a little later. So work on your nanga and nongo longo sounds. Glottal stop. I like the example. They have like an apostrophe. They say it's an upside down comma. Um, but the best way that they describe it is the word bottle without the two e's. So it's bottle. So that's a pretty easy way to remember. I find they're kind of difficult when they're at the beginning. I don't really know how to pronounce them at the beginning. In the middle, they're alright. Their examples are ava, and that one's at the beginning, so I'm not 100% sure if I'm saying that right. Va'a is boat, tu'u is put, and ti, tia, I cannot pronounce that word. Tia, tia. I think that's right. Listen to the thing afterwards and see. Um, this part, sounds that are not Samoan sounds, also is really informative. It helps make sense of a lot of things, and how in the Samoan language they'll use the vowels together to create a different sound altogether. An example is the word vayaso, which means weak, and by using the I and the A together, it actually makes a Y sound. Vayaso, yata, which is yard. Running out of time, got 30 seconds. The same is true for you and anything that follows it. So you with an O followed it is wo. You with an I is we. You with an A is wa. So that'll help flow with vowels. A good example I found is the word tui, which is fork. T-U-I, tui. As in Tuyasa Sopo. Shout out to my uso. Well, good luck.